It's difficult to believe this is what No Man's Sky used to look like, and this is it today. After 7 years and countless updates, the game is almost unrecognizable. But 2024 is special because we've seen a bump in quality that we haven't seen in a while from Hello Games. Not that the content prior wasn't great, it's just that the new stuff is a few leagues above in terms of the sheer amazement it's able to generate. Now yes, technically I know I'm a bit late covering this, Dragon's Dogma kinda took me out of it the past few weeks, but No Man's Sky just hit new peaks in daily player count, so I thought this would be a perfect time to do a quick over-review of what we've got so far in 2024. So about a few weeks ago, Hello Games put out Content Update 4.6, what they called Orbital Update. And for good reason. For those new here, almost every update gets one of these code names that vaguely reference or hint towards what's being updated and featured inside. But Orbital added possibly the most requested feature of all time, and it did so with minimal to no fanfare at all. I'm talking about shipbuilding, of course, possibly the most speculated on and one of the most requested features that we've even talked about on the channel for years, until I eventually lost all hope and gave up. Until today. So imagine my surprise when they just dropped this out of the blue and it's like, well, here's the new update, check out the 5 other features, oh, and here's that thing that you wanted since almost like a decade ago. That's Hello Games for you. And I think that's the perfect example of how they manage content and game releases nowadays. Minimal talk, they let the actual product speak for itself, and they barely do any marketing slash, well, in this case, hype anymore. Any other developer would have stroked their, well, own egos for weeks after putting out such a requested feature, while here we are getting it in the middle of the patch notes. Not even kidding, if you check the Orbital page, ship customization is like the 4th or 5th feature being listed, despite being one of the most requested of all time. So how is Starship customization? Well, it's like what we always envisioned it would be. You get this new device that lets you construct your very own ship using individual parts that you salvage and collect from other ships. So you get to pick the cockpit, the wings, the engines that you've got by dismantling the ships you either found out or bought from somebody else. You even get the option for a reactor core, which is your kind of class designation, essentially letting you to go straight for the class that you want. So if you want, for example, a max rank out of the gate, you can just buy one of these from one of the new nearby vendors. Add your choice of colors and press assemble, and poof, you just got your dream ship right out of it. And this simple yet very effective mechanic hits a few birds with one stone. On one side, you get to finally design the ship you've always wanted without having to manually filter through all the random ones that spawn out in the wild. You also get another incentive to go out and explore, knowing that you'll find more ship parts from all the models that you can now dismantle should you need to. Say there's a special type of wing or engine model you really want, you will feel more inclined to search for the ship that features them regardless of the class that it has, since you can then funnel it into something really great. For now, you can only ship build fighters, haulers, and explorers though, which already contains hundreds of parts between them, but it's possible that in the future we'll see other types being added too, which can add even more reasons to collect ships for the features that you know you can use later on. Now this might not be that impressive for everybody, maybe you've got better models from previous updates or expeditions, but No Man's Sky OGs will definitely appreciate this, despite maybe being a couple of years too late. Now I did want to get this out of the way because the true highlight of the Orbital update is the new space station redesign, hence of course its code name. We've seen dramatic redesigns of pre-existing features before, but I think this is Hello Games' most dramatic one yet, and if this is the level of quality they can pull off in 2024, I really hope they've got something like this but for planetary exploration in the future. I mean, this completely mops the floor even with the previous redesign that space stations got back in Next with update 1.5. So there are two things that happened here. First, the layout of the interior changed, with the vendors and other useful terminals being more condensed in the front of the landing pads compared to the sides, more closely resembling the layout of the space anomaly. Second is that its interior and exterior design, including colors, object arrangements, props, lighting, and so on, are now fully procedurally generated, so no two space stations will look completely alike. Even within the same alien race, which will have their own unique flavors, you'll find distinctions to go by. I've been to space stations that looked like military compounds, others like construction sites, while others were like stepping into some kind of nightclub or dystopian cyberpunk neon district. I think HG definitely took some inspiration from some of the neon street signs of Night City. Also, exterior-wise, they can range quite wildly, including size, some extreme examples of course feeling like miniature planets if I didn't know any better. Now, quite a few of these premium prefabs are completely animated too, so the level of quality here compared to what we are used to is like not even being from the same planet. Also, as is tradition, you can unlock some of these prefabs for your own base if you want to build them and have them in your own sort of structure. There are other quality of life changes being added in the new update too, like guild envoys got a lot more useful and will actually either hand out or even give heavy discounts for items that are usually very needed. I've seen warp drive fuel, even walker brains, and other high-end mats you normally have to go through hoops to acquire given by these NPCs. They also take donations, so besides doing guild missions or fending off pirates, this is another great way to farm quick reputation with various factions. Also, other UI and graphical improvements too, including screen space reflections, which seem small at first, but in actuality, it really bumps up the cinematic level of quality that the game always had. So a lot of eye candy, no doubt, but how does this stack up? Well, as far as eye candy goes, I would say it's pretty high. The past two updates especially, including the previous Omega, brought a number of very aesthetically great looking features that no doubt will get a lot of attention from users. Such as, for example, the previous Expedition Starborn Runner, which has seen a dramatic hike in quality, at least as far as ship design goes compared to all the previous entries we had. I think by this point it's quite clear that Hello Games' approach is to make the game incrementally more attractive to the point that you feel compelled to check it out, not necessarily to bring more complexity to it. Even the space station redesign, while cool as heck, doesn't change how you interact with the place almost at all on a fundamental level. In fact, most updates for No Man's Sky focus more on the appeal rather than complexity. I don't really want to say there's a focus on style over substance, as that might judge it a bit too harshly, but I can see why they do it. And this is a very interesting concept that strangely works for this game. Why care about how deep the puddle is when you can just stretch how far it goes, to the point that its width kinda becomes its new depth? An odd analogy, I know, but it's been proven time and time again that humans tend to be attracted to the new shiny thing and will almost always chase it rather than revisiting the old and familiar despite its apparent improvements. No Man's Sky has been slightly favoring the former rather than the latter, but sometimes it does go back at the old stuff and it gives it that restructure that it needs to add just a bit more complexity to it. A great recent example are expeditions. For the longest time, you would use them only for their exclusive rewards, but you had to constantly come up with new save files. Well, not any longer, since the Omega update earlier in the year, they made them so much more appealing by letting you access them via your very own existing save files. So now you can use that progression in your primary save in and out of the expedition runtime. You can even transfer over your ship and some of your upgrades plus resources, and then have more transferred back to your primary save once the expedition is done, besides of course the generally account-wide unlocks. So like everything else, all of these new features have a great ramp up for possible future upgrades and added complexity. Even the new space station designs leave a lot of vacant places around the edges that could potentially be filled out in the future with new features to interact with. And speaking of future updates, the Expedition Terminal features that a new expedition will be coming very soon. While this in and of itself can be just a placeholder text, it's also quite a bit since the last update, and it does seem that Hello Games has been ramping up production when it comes to new content. On average, we have like 4 major content updates per year, with 2 already out by this point, but it's likely that we're gonna see more than 4 coming out in 2024 if it all goes at the same pace. We literally got 2 of the biggest updates back to back in the span of a single month, so it definitely looks interesting for this year. And there is also the question of Light No Fire, which was announced just 4 months ago and has by far the highest number of views on Hello Games channel. If the level of hype for No Man's Sky was crazy back in 2016, this is on a complete different level that is not even comparable to how it was back then. Pretty much 10 times the amount of views it used to be, and for good reason. It's a very ambitious project that I cannot wait to personally see. It's been in development for over 5 years at this point, but it does seem that there are still some slight things to be fleshed out. We of course covered this in a previous video, so if you want to, go ahead and check the breakdown of that. But in the meantime, that's pretty much it with the newest No Man's Sky update. Of course, I do want to follow up next with a ton of big guides for 2024. I think that they are long overdue, since we haven't gone over some of the biggest things in a while, at least a few years, and the game has changed massively since then. So if you want to see any of those, let me know down below in the comments. In the meantime, this is it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.